Hi everybody, welcome to It Gets Faster Now TV. My name is Antti and this video is about the route of Rally Italia Sardegna 2023. I'm back to making these route preview videos because I have been busy and at the same time Croatia and Portugal weren't that interesting to make because most of the stages were the same as the year before. So in contrast, all the stages in this year's Sardinia will be different to last year. Only the Super Special has remained, so there's a lot of things to study. Once again, the rally center is in the city of Olbia on the east coast of the island, as opposed to Alghero, where it has been last year and before 2020 for a couple of years. But in 2021 the base was also in Olbia, and thus we have some stages that were used in 2021 but not last year, so they are now returning. There is 19 special stages and they are making up 322 kilometers. In the couple of past years, Sardinia has had this structure with the stages that you first do 2 stages twice in the morning and another pair of stages in the afternoon, but this system has now been removed, possibly because it causes easily stage cancellations in case of delays, or maybe they just had to do it because they wanted to have this long 50-kilometer Monte Lerno stage. But anyway, let's start from the top. We have the shakedown, Loiri Porto São Paulo, and it's a quite strange shakedown, I would say. It's mostly tarmac and it's quite straight. There's hardly any corners, some side corners here and there, and even the last junction turn is on the tarmac, so I wouldn't say it's really representative of the rally. Maybe for the power stage, which also has quite a bit of tarmac, but other than that it's a bit of a strange choice. Then on the Thursday evening we start with this super special that was introduced last year. So last year this rally started from Olbia, although the base of the rally was in Alghero, so they used this super special last year. It's a really nice super special. It starts on this tarmac section around this little pond, and then they do this donut. So take note, Oliver Solberg, here you can do it and not get penalized. And then around here they switch on the gravel section and there's some jumps and long corners, and it's closer to actual driving than most super specials. On Friday we have 138 kilometers of stages, so it's a bit more than last year, but the original itinerary had 10 more kilometers, so it would have been almost 150 kilometers. As we know, usually in this rally it's a tough job to be first on the road if it's dry, so the more kilometers you have on Friday, the more the first car will lose. So in that sense it's good that they have taken some kilometers off, but still it's longer than last year. The first stage we have is Tantariles, and it's only been used once in the rally in 2004 when it was the first time Rally Italia Sardegna was driven in WRC. And as we can see, only the first half is the same and the rest is new. There's no footage to show, but I have seen some, and I can tell you that it's a pretty safari-like stage. There's like pretty fast and narrow sections, but there's a lot of roughness and jumps and dips. In the beginning it's a bit more angular. First it goes uphill, and then as we can see from these lines, it goes first uphill and then it descends downhill here, and then it's a bit more straightforward with just a couple of tight corners here and there. And there's also 2 river crossings with some water in them. Here is the first one at 6.9 k's and the second one at 9.3 k's. And there's a lot of surface changes. The beginning is like typical Sardinia with this hard base and loose gravel, and then it gets more sandy, and then we have some basically just ground as the base. So it will be interesting to see how it second pass. And it will be a new stage for everybody, so it will be quite equal. Then we go to Terranova, which has been used for the past 2 years, but in a longer format. So we can see the previous year stage here and this ending has been used in a form or another in 2013, and actually 2013 is the closest example of the ending, but then the 2014 stage also used some bits of the ending as well, but in a different configuration. Anyway, it's another quite narrow and angular stage. There's some fast passages but tight corners from time to time, and then at this point the stage has a short bit of tarmac. We accelerate on the tarmac and then we exit the tarmac straight on the gravel as the tarmac turns left, and there's a big jump here. It's pretty spectacular, as we can see. Then more of this angular gravel road, and here we turn to the new section, and first it's another climb, a bit technical, then a bit faster a bit, and then this last 800 meters are once again really safari like. It's narrow and really rough, and there's like a steep downhill, and it's twisty and really bumpy. It will be actually a quite spectacular place to be watching the rally. You can see the cars for a long time and a lot of action and movement. But I think what we all have been waiting for is this 50 kilometers of Montelerno. There's a lot of different roads on this stage. I don't really know how to explain it to you so that you can keep following it, but in my blog I try to divide it to 5 pieces. So there's 5 distinct sections. First of all, we have some bit of new that hasn't been used before in the rally, the first 2.4 kilometers. First, it's like quite typical Sardinia, narrow but quite fast and angular. Then this bit here is once again like safari. There's like a really rough and there's big rocks on the side of the road. It also resembles partly Mina Clavero stage in Argentina. But here we join the route of last year's Monte di Ala stage for 13 kilometers. So this will be familiar to the drivers. And first it's narrow and technical, and then somewhere in here the road becomes paved for a while, and then this junction here after the bridge makes the surface again gravel, and the road becomes quite fast. It's like fast, but there's some technicality to it, but mostly it's fast, and then gradually it becomes a bit more technical here, but still, and maybe a bit narrower as well. In here we deviate from the previous Monte di Ala route onto this small road, and we go past this lake, which is quite familiar from these Montelerno stages. We have been around this lake in different configurations. And then we have this bit of fast link and a really small road, a technical one, and then here we join a firmer road and we come to Miki's Jump, which is obviously the most infamous place of Rally Italia Sardegna. It was already featuring on the route of this stage in 2004 when the stage was driven for the first time, but it wasn't until the following year that the jump became known how it is now. It was like some construction work or editing or spicing was done on the jump to make it how it is now. So this is like, now we started from Monte di Ala territory and now we joined basically Montelerno. So this is like the third section of how I have divided the stage. So this is like, apart from Miki's Jump, which is a bit faster place, there's like quite a lot of tight corners and it's pretty technical. And then we come back to the lake, we go on the other side of the lake, and then we turn onto this small road that hasn't been driven that often. It was used in 2015 on the Montelerno stage, this same route, so it should be familiar from those years, but not many drivers coming from those years. Maybe Thierry Neuville and Sebastian Ogier and maybe Oyt Tanak have done this section, but it's been almost 10 years. So this is once again a quite small road and a technical one. Until this point we turn onto another road, which is once again more like Monte di Ala, and we come onto this faster bit, and then we do this loop from the, like we deviate from the road to do this loop, and this hasn't been used before, but it's like pretty fast. It's a really narrow small road, but it's super fast actually. There's only like one place where they go past this windmill, and then there's maybe one tight right, and then the next tight corner is when they return to the road. And then this road becomes more angular. There you can see these tight corners every now and then breaking the flow, and it proceeds like that for a while until this point we cross this river with a lot of water in it at 36 k's, and then we start climbing up and we join once again these Monte di Ala really fast and quite wide roads in the windmill area. And this is a really spectacular and nice section. We go for about 10 kilometers with the top gear with only a couple of tight corners, maybe here, and then it starts getting a bit more technical but still quite fast here. And usually the finish of Monte di Ala has been somewhere in here, or in some years the start. And we proceed now further, and the stage becomes paved for a while. There's a fast tarmac section and a junction on tarmac, and then we actually join last year's Monte di Ala beginning in the opposite direction on gravel here. It's quite soft gravel, but it's a fast section, and then we turn left past this windmill, and then we descend onto this sort of super special area that's made for spectators. So that's a pretty long stage, almost 50 kilometers. And actually, when I was talking about the trouble for the first car on the road, at the moment the weather forecast is giving some rain for the rally week, but I'm making this video now on Thursday, so it's a week before the rally, so it's quite difficult to forecast so long, and it would make the rally really difficult if it would be raining. It would be muddy but also rough, and of course it would change completely the starting position advantage, because that kind of mud gets more slippery with every car, so maybe the first car could have some advantage. It's difficult to know. Anyway, it will be a challenging day, whether it's dry or wet. Okay, then we go to Saturday. We have basically the same amount of kilometers, but we have 4 stages driven twice, so these are shorter stages. They are all basically familiar stages, but all versions have been changed. So the first stage of Saturday is Koiluna Loelle, and it's one of the staples of the rally. I think it has been run in a form or another every year, so quite familiar, and the format of the stage is changing almost every year, but this time it's quite close to the 2021 and 2020 routes. Only this small deviation here. Basically this is like the main road, and then we deviate onto smaller roads and we return to the road, and then another deviation, and once again we return, and this is a quite fast section, and then we have this additional loop of small roads, and somewhere here was where Kalle Rovanperä had a big crash in 2020. And then we join this sort of rallycross section, and there's usually a water splash before it, and then the ending is again quite fast with this small deviation here and a junction turn just before the finish line. Then we have Su Filigosu, which is like, once again we are in the area of Montelerno, so this stage is basically a combination of last year's Montelerno but in the opposite direction, and 2021 Filigosu one also in the opposite direction, and also most of the stage was driven this way in 2019 as Montelerno. So the beginning is, we have this uphill section, and it's like medium wide and technical, and then it becomes a bit faster here, and then becomes a narrower, and there's the tarmac section, and then we continue on this narrow and quite technical roads, and finally we have this river crossing here, which is a quite infamous place, and then a hairpin turn onto the bridge, and that's the finish line. And then we have the longest stage of Saturday, 21.9 kilometers, Erula-Tula, and this stage has been run every year since 2016, and it's quite often been the slowest forest stage of the whole season, so it's a pretty technical and slow twisty stage. And as well here the configuration of the stage is changing every year, so this year it's quite close to 2019. There's only like these small differences but the beginning and the ending is the same. And first it's like this uphill section, and there's a bit of paved road, and then once again really small and technical. And I think here, somewhere in here, was where Jari-Matti Latvala rode the car in 2019. At this point the stage gets faster as we approach the windmill park, and there's still like these jumps on the side of the tarmac road, which is like a pretty spectacular place, and usually there's a TV camera. And then we come to this windmill park, and there's like a lot of surface changes and junction turns, and these roads can be technical and twisty, or they can be completely straight. They can be paved. I think there's some concrete, and then some of them are good gravel and some of them are just forest tracks. So there's a lot of changing all the time and a lot of junction turns. And then once we exit the area, we start descending on this really small and technical and slow road. And for the past years this section has been, actually last year it wasn't driven at all, but in 2021 and 2020 it was driven through this shortcut. But now we are back to the longer version that was used in the previous years, 2019 and 2018. And it's a pretty senior stage. And this final corner, the surface is changing to tarmac. And I think Hayden Paddon had a crash here in 2016. He went off to the ravine on the outside of the corner. And Elvin Evans has had a crash here in the windmill area in 2017, and it's a tricky stage. I mean, it's difficult to say which is the easiest stage of the rally, because they're also technical and tricky. And we have one more Saturday stage, the shortest stage, but not an easy one. It's called Tempio Pausania, and this has been driven for the past 3 years in a different configuration. And now it's actually closer to how it was in the old Costa Smeralda years. And also some same sections that were used in 2005 in the WRC event, although in the opposite direction. This stage also has a lot of rhythm and surface changes, and it's a pretty slow and technical and narrow stage. We start at the town, and there's like this park. I think the initial acceleration is on gravel, then we turn on the tarmac, then concrete for a while, and then gravel, and it's like medium fast, and then we have this really twisty passage, and then it proceeds medium fast, but it's so narrow that you cannot go really fast. And somewhere in here was where Thierry Neuville rolled the car last year. And also Esa-Pekka Lappi crashed on the stage last year, but it was somewhere here on the ending, which isn't driven this year. About 4 kilometers into the stage, we turn right onto this section that hasn't been used before. It's a really small road, and then we start proceeding on the last year route, but in the opposite direction, still a quite small and technical road. And then we come onto this tight hairpin through these gates, and it will be really tricky to get the car turned in. I think there's like 2 gates you have to go through, and last year it was driven differently. The cars came from this direction, turned left, right and left, so it was a really tricky gate section that year as well, but now it will be like a long hairpin. And once again we proceed on the last year route in the opposite direction until here. We turn right onto this new ending, which hasn't been used in the past years, so it's another surface change. It's a bit wider and firmer road, but it's more technical and twisty, so it's like a really interesting rhythm change, and it will be a tricky stage as well. So we have Sunday left, and as I said, we have some stages that were driven in 2021 but not last year, and these 2 stages in the north of the island are such stages. These are the exact same stages as 2021 and basically haven't been used a lot. This one has been used in a different format in some years, but basically the beginning and the ending are new. We can even go to old Costa Smeralda stages to see some usage for this. So basically the beginning is narrow gravel, and then we have this really tight and technical passing of a village, and then the surface changes to tarmac, and there's a fast section with jumps on tarmac, and then we turn onto this wider road which is really fast. One of the only really fast sections. We had that windmill area fast section in Montelerno, and then we have this section, but mostly it's not that fast. And actually this stage was the fastest stage of the 2021 rally. We have a little bit of more sinuous and technical here on the ending, but then it gets a bit faster as well. And finally to the power stage, it's titled Sardinia, but in 2021 it was called Aglientu Santa Teresa. And this is a really interesting stage because there's really so many surface changes. We start on this relatively wide and fast gravel road, and then we turn onto this really small and technical road with a lot of 90 turns, and then we come onto this narrow tarmac road, and then we turn once again onto small gravel roads, and it's really tight and technical here. And then we have this I don't find it on the map, but there's a river crossing somewhere in here where I think Elvin Evans stole the car. And then we once again return on the tarmac here, and another tarmac road, and then we exit the tarmac. Similarly as in Terranova, the tarmac road turns away, but we continue straight on the gravel. And this is a bit of wider gravel road. It's quite angular, you have fast passages and tight corners. And the final corner of the stage is on the tarmac, so there's basically 3 tarmac sections on an 8-kilometer stage. First here, and then here, and then the final corner. So it's a tricky stage. And 2 years ago on this stage, Marco Bulacia had a quick roll on a left-hander. He just rolled the car once and just put the gear in and started driving again. I think he lost only like 5 or 10 seconds or something. So that is Rally Italia Sardegna done, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have been reading the blog, and be sure to subscribe to the blog and the YouTube channel, and you can also donate on the blog if you want. Anyway, I think it will be a challenging and difficult and interesting rally, so looking forward to following it. So let's keep in touch and see you later. Bye.